here is a question that will make you stop and think. Why is it that a person can spend 12, 16, even 20 years inside a classroom studying history, science, literature, and mathematics and graduate with absolutely zero knowledge of how money works? Schools teach children almost everything except the one subject that will determine the quality of their entire adult life. And the result is a generation of highly educated people who are financially helpless, living paycheck to paycheck, and wondering why hard work alone never seems to be enough. Robert Kiyosaki published Rich Dad, Poor Dad in 1997, and it went on to become one of the best-selling personal finance books in history, with over 40 million copies sold in more than 100 countries. Kiyosaki is not a traditional financial advisor. He is a businessman, investor, and educator who grew up with two very different father figures, his own educated but financially struggling father, and his best friend's father, who never finished 8th grade but became one of the wealthiest men in Hawaii. The contrast between those two men became the foundation of everything this book teaches. By the end of this video, you will understand why the middle-class mindset keeps millions of people financially stuck. You will learn the crucial difference between assets and liabilities, and why most people have it completely backwards. You will understand how the rich make money work for them instead of working for money their entire lives. And you will walk away with a completely new way of thinking about income, investing, and financial freedom. This is one of the most important books ever written about money. Let's break it all down. Chapter 1. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Two different worlds. Kiyosaki opens the book by introducing the two most influential men in his life and the dramatically different financial philosophies they represented. His biological father, whom he calls Poor Dad, was a highly educated man. He had ASD, worked hard his entire life as a teacher and government official, and genuinely believed that education and job security were the paths to a good life. He was respected, intelligent, and well-intentioned. And he died, leaving very little behind financially. His best friend Mike's father, Rich Dad, never finished school. He built businesses from the ground up, invested in real estate, and spent his life making money work for him rather than working for money. He was not flashy or extravagant. But by the time Kiyosaki was an adult, Rich Dad had built an empire that spanned businesses, real estate, and investments, the same city, the same opportunities. Radically different outcomes, because of radically different beliefs about money. What makes this opening so powerful is that both men were not just financial archetypes, they were real human beings with full, complex lives. Poor Dad said things like, "I can't afford this." Rich Dad refused to use that phrase. Rich Dad said, "How can I afford this?" Poor Dad saw money as something to be earned through labor and spent carefully. Rich Dad saw money as a tool, something that could be made to multiply if you understood the rules. These two mindsets created two completely different financial realities. Kiyosaki says that most people are raised by poor dads, not because their parents are bad or stupid, but because the financial education system is broken at its foundation. Parents teach children what they know. And what most parents know about money comes from the same system that failed them. The only way to break the cycle is to seek a different kind of education, one that the school system was never designed to provide. Chapter 2. Lesson 1. The rich don't work for money. The first and arguably most important lesson in the book challenges the fundamental belief that most people carry from childhood, that the path to financial success is getting a good job with a good salary. Kiyosaki says this belief is the single greatest trap of the middle class. Working for money, trading time for a paycheck, is not the path to wealth. It is the path to dependency. He illustrates this with a story from his childhood. At 9 years old, young Robert and his friend Mike wanted to make money. They went to Rich Dad and asked him for a job. Rich Dad hired them to work in his store for 10 cents an hour, deliberately paying them far below minimum wage. After a few weeks of this, Robert grew frustrated and went to Rich Dad to complain. Rich Dad's response was not what he expected. He said that the feeling of frustration, the feeling of not being paid enough, was exactly the lesson Robert needed to learn about emotions and money. Rich Dad explained that most people spend their entire lives reacting to two emotions, fear and desire. Fear of not having enough money drives them to take a job. Then desire, to buy things, to keep up, to feel secure, drives them to spend everything they earn. Fear then returns and drives them back to work for more. This cycle, Rich Dad called the rat race. And he said that the only way out is to make your mind work for you rather than letting your emotions control your financial decisions. The practical takeaway from this chapter is to examine your own emotional relationship with money. Are you working primarily because you are afraid of what happens if you don't? Are you spending because desire tells you that more things will make you feel better? These are not moral failings. They are deeply programmed emotional responses. But once you see them clearly, you can begin to make decisions from a place of knowledge and intention rather than fear and impulse. Chapter 3, Lesson 2. Why Teach Financial Literacy? This chapter contains what Kiyosaki calls the most important financial concept in the entire book, and it is deceptively simple. He says, the rich acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities, but they think those liabilities are assets. Once you understand this distinction clearly, your entire view of money, spending, and investing will permanently change. Kiyosaki defines these terms in the simplest possible way. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. No accounting jargon, no complicated formulas. Just two questions. Does this thing put money in or take money out? The rich spend their lives acquiring things that put money in. The poor and middle class spend their lives acquiring things that take money out, while believing they are being financially responsible. He gives the most famous example in the book, a house. Most people are taught that their home is their greatest asset, but Kiyosaki challenges this directly. For most homeowners, a house takes money out of your pocket every month. Mortgage payments, property taxes, maintenance, insurance. It does not generate income. Therefore, by his definition, it is a liability, not an asset. This idea is controversial and has sparked debate for decades. But the underlying point, that financial literacy means knowing exactly what money does in your hands, is genuinely transformative. The practical application of this lesson is to sit down and draw two columns on a piece of paper. On one side, write down everything that puts money into your life every month. On the other side, write everything that takes money out. Now look at what you are spending most of your time and energy acquiring. Are you building the left column or the right column? Most people, if they are honest, will find they have been filling the right column, liabilities, their entire adult life. And that single moment of honest clarity is where real financial change begins. Chapter 4, Lesson 3, Mind Your Own Business. Kiyosaki draws a critical distinction in this chapter between your profession and your business. Your profession is what you do to earn income. You're an employee, a doctor, a teacher, a salesperson. Your business is your asset column, the investments, properties, and income-generating activities that build wealth independent of your working hours. Most people spend their entire lives focused entirely on their profession while neglecting their business completely. He uses the example of Ray Kroc, the man credited with building McDonald's into a global empire. Crow once gave a speech to May students and asked them what business he was in. They said hamburgers. Crow smiled and said, "No, I'm in the real estate business." McDonald's restaurant locations are some of the most strategically valuable real estate in the world. The hamburger business funds the real estate business. Crow understood the difference between the product and the true business, and that understanding built one of the most valuable companies in history. Kiyosaki's message here is not that you should quit your job. Your job is your income engine, and income is the fuel you need to build your asset column. The problem is, when people spend everything they earn from their job on liabilities, then wonder why they are not building wealth. He says, keep your job, but take some of what you earn and use it to build real assets. Stocks, bonds, rental properties, intellectual property, businesses that don't require your constant presence to generate income. The practical step is to start building your personal asset column today. No matter how small the beginning is, this might mean buying your first shares of stock. It might mean starting a side business. It might mean researching real estate investing. The amount you start with matters far less than the habit of thinking like a business owner, asking not just how do I earn more, but how do I make what I earn work for me. That shift in thinking is what separates the employee mindset from the investor mindset. Chapter 5, Lesson 4, The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. This chapter opens with a historical perspective that most people have never considered. Kiyosaki explains that income taxes were originally introduced as temporary measures targeted only at the very wealthy. Over time, they expanded to cover the working and middle classes, and today, employees pay taxes as some of the first obligations from their paycheck before they can save or invest. The wealthy, through corporations and strategic tax planning, operate under an entirely different system. Here is the fundamental difference Kiyosaki outlines. When you are an employee, you earn money. The government takes taxes first, and you live and invest from what remains. But a corporation earns money, spends on expenses and investments first, and only then pays taxes on the profits that remain. This structural difference, the sequence of earn, spend, tax versus earn, tax, spend, creates an enormous wealth gap over time. It is not illegal. It is simply how the tax system was designed, and most people are never taught about it. Rich Dad taught Kiyosaki that financial intelligence involves knowing the tax code, not to avoid taxes dishonestly, but to use every legal advantage available. The wealthy hire accountants, tax attorneys, and financial advisors not as a luxury but as a business necessity. Their professional fees pay for themselves many times over in the taxes legally saved and the strategies legally implemented. The poor and middle class, by contrast, often file their own basic returns and miss enormous legitimate deductions and opportunities. The practical takeaway here is to begin educating yourself about the tax advantages available to investors and business owners in your country. Tax laws reward investment in ways that employment never can. Understanding this is not about becoming a tax expert yourself. It is about knowing enough to ask the right questions and to hire the right people. Every dollar you keep legally through smart tax strategy is a dollar that can go to work building your asset column. Chapter 6. Lesson 5. The Rich Invent Money. One of the most empowering ideas in the entire book is that money is not something you simply earn or find. It is something the financially intelligent can create. Kiyosaki says that the greatest asset any person can have is their financial intelligence. Not their degree, not their job title, not their salary. Their ability to see opportunities that others miss and to have the knowledge and courage to act on them. He shares an example from his own investing life. Kiyosaki once found a house being auctioned for $45,000 that was worth $65,000 in the current market. He didn't have $45,000 sitting in a bank account. But he understood the value of the deal so clearly that he was able to find investors willing to fund the purchase. He profited from the transaction without using his own money at all. He had invented money by recognizing a real opportunity and using financial intelligence to act on it. Kiyosaki says that most people wait for their financial ship to come in. They wait for a raise, for an inheritance, for the lottery, for some external event to change their circumstances. The financially intelligent don't wait. They go out into the world with their eyes open, looking for deals, distortions, and opportunities that others have overlooked. Every market, real estate, stocks, businesses is full of mispricings and possibilities. But you can only see them if you have developed the financial education to recognize what you are looking at. The practical action step here is to commit to growing your financial intelligence actively and consistently. Read books on investing, study your local real estate market, learn how to read a basic financial statement, take a course on stock market fundamentals. The goal is not to become an expert overnight. It is to expand your financial EQ enough to begin seeing opportunities that are invisible to the untrained eye. Every piece of knowledge you add increases your ability to invent money where others see nothing. Chapter 7, Lesson 6, Work to Learn, Not to Earn. This chapter contains a piece of advice that runs completely counter to conventional career guidance, and it is one of the most valuable things in the entire book. Kiyosaki says that the reason most talented people never become wealthy is that they specialize too early and too narrowly. They become excellent at one technical skill and spend their entire career perfecting it, never realizing that specialized excellence alone rarely creates financial freedom. He tells a story about a young, talented writer who worked for a newspaper and came to him frustrated. She was a gifted writer but earning very little. He suggested she take a sales course. She was offended. She felt that sales was beneath her skill set and that her writing should speak for itself. Kiyosaki pointed out gently that the best writer in the world will starve if she cannot also sell her work. Sales, the ability to communicate value and persuade, is the most universal financial skill there is, and most educated professionals have never developed it. Rich Dad taught Kiyosaki to choose jobs not primarily for salary but for what they would teach him. He worked for Xerox specifically to overcome his fear of rejection and become a skilled salesperson. He worked at a merchant marine ship to learn about international trade. He joined the military to learn leadership and discipline. Each experience added a new tool to his financial intelligence toolkit. He was building a broad base of knowledge that would serve him across every investment and business venture for the rest of his life. The practical application is to evaluate every career opportunity through two lenses. What does it pay and what does it teach? Sometimes the lower-paying opportunity that teaches you accounting, management, sales, negotiation, or leadership is worth far more in the long run than the higher-paying opportunity that teaches you nothing new. Seek breadth alongside depth. The most financially successful people in the world are not narrow specialists. They are people who understand enough about many different disciplines to build and lead businesses effectively. Chapter 8. Overcoming obstacles. The 5 main reasons people fail financially. Knowledge alone is not enough. Kiyosaki knows this from personal experience and from watching many financially educated people still fail to build wealth. So in this chapter, he identifies the 5 main psychological and emotional obstacles that prevent people from converting financial knowledge into financial freedom. Understanding these obstacles is just as important as understanding the lessons themselves. The first obstacle is fear, specifically the fear of losing money. Every person who has ever invested has lost money at some point, even the greatest investors in history. The difference is not that the rich never lose. It is that they have developed a healthy relationship with loss. They see it as tuition. They learn from it, adjust, and keep going. Most people lose money once and retreat permanently back into the supposed safety of a paycheck. And that retreat is the real financial loss, because the paycheck was never going to build wealth anyway. The second obstacle is cynicism. Kiyosaki says that the world is full of people who talk themselves out of every good opportunity before they even investigate it. They hear about an investment and immediately start generating reasons why it won't work, why it's too risky, why it sounds too good to be true. These people are not being smart, they are being afraid and calling it wisdom. The cynical person sits on the sidelines and watches others succeed, then tells everyone that those people just got lucky. The third obstacle is laziness, but Kiyosaki reframes laziness in an unexpected way. He says the busiest people are often the laziest, because they use busyness as an excuse to avoid the things that truly matter. A person who says, "I don't have time to think about investing," is not too busy. They are using busyness to avoid confronting financial realities that feel overwhelming. The fourth obstacle is bad habits, specifically paying everyone else before paying yourself. And the fifth is arrogance, the belief that what you don't know doesn't matter, which leads people to dismiss financial information rather than seeking to learn from it. The practical takeaway from this chapter is to do an honest self-audit. Which of these 5 obstacles shows up most powerfully in your own financial life? Is it fear that keeps you from investing? Is it cynicism that makes you dismiss every opportunity? Is it the bad habit of spending before saving? Naming your specific obstacle is the first step toward overcoming it. You cannot fight an enemy you refuse to see clearly. Chapter 9. Getting Started. 10 Steps to Awaken Your Financial Genius. This chapter is where Kiyosaki shifts from philosophy to practicality, and he delivers 10 concrete steps for getting your financial journey genuinely started. He begins by saying that the most important thing is not a perfect plan. It is a reason. A powerful, emotional, personal reason why you want financial freedom. What he calls a want that is bigger than all the discomfort and fear that the journey will require. Without a deep enough reason, most people quit the moment things get hard. The second step is making conscious daily choices, and the most important daily choice is what he calls paying yourself first. Before the mortgage, before the groceries, before any bill, before anything, you take a portion of your income and put it into your investment account. This is not just a financial strategy, it is a statement of priorities. It says, "My future wealth matters more than today's convenience." Most people pay everyone else first and save whatever is left. The wealthy pay themselves first and find a way to handle everything else. Kiyosaki also strongly emphasizes choosing your friends carefully, not based on their social status, but based on their financial intelligence. He says some of his most valuable financial education came from wealthy friends who casually shared information about markets, deals, and strategies over dinner. The people around you determine the conversations you have. And the conversations you have determine the ideas you are exposed to. Seek out people who are doing what you want to do and learn from them relentlessly. He also recommends mastering one investment strategy first before diversifying. Many people try to do everything at once. Stocks, real estate, bonds, business, and master nothing. Kiyosaki built his initial wealth through a deep, specific expertise in real estate investing. That focused mastery gave him the confidence, the track record, and the cash flow to eventually expand into other areas. Start where you are. Learn one thing deeply, then grow. Chapter 10, Still Want More. Here are some to-dos. In one of the book's most action-oriented chapters, Kiyosaki gets specific about the behaviors that separate people who talk about financial freedom from people who actually achieve it. He starts with a concept he calls, "Stop doing what you're doing," by which he means if your current financial approach is not producing results you want, continuing it more diligently is not the answer. You must stop, reassess, and take a completely different approach. He specifically encourages readers to look for new ideas in unexpected places. Most financially successful people are voracious learners, but they don't just read business books. They take classes in subjects that seem unrelated. They talk to people outside their industry. They study history, human behavior, and psychology. The most creative financial ideas often come from connecting knowledge from completely different fields. Kiyosaki says he once attended a seminar on bankruptcy law, not because he was planning to go bankrupt, but because understanding distressed assets gave him a significant edge in real estate investing. Another powerful piece of advice in this chapter is to make offers, even if you're not sure they'll be accepted. In real estate, for example, many beginning investors wait until they feel completely ready to make their first offer. Kiyosaki says just make offers, lots of them, at prices that work for your numbers. Most will be rejected, but occasionally one will be accepted. And that one accepted offer at the right price on the right property can change your financial trajectory. The market rewards those who participate. It cannot reward those who only observe. He also talks about the importance of finding a mentor, someone who has already achieved what you want to achieve. Not to ask for money or for handouts, but to learn from their experience, their mistakes, and their perspective. A good mentor compresses your learning curve dramatically. What might take you 10 years to figure out on your own, a mentor can help you understand in months. Respect their time, come prepared, add value where you can, and be a serious student. The investment in a great mentorship relationship pays dividends for a lifetime. Chapter 11, The Cash Flow Quadrant, Where Do You Live? Although the full cash flow quadrant is developed in a separate Kiyosaki book, the concept is introduced and deeply embedded in Rich Dad, Poor Dad's philosophy. Kiyosaki divides all income earners into 4 categories, 4 quadrants that represent fundamentally different relationships with money, time, and freedom. Understanding which quadrant you currently occupy and which one you want to reach is one of the most clarifying frameworks in all of personal finance. The first quadrant is E, employee. Employees trade time for money. Their income stops the moment they stop working. They value job security, benefits, and salary. The second quadrant is S, self-employed. These are people who own their own jobs, freelancers, consultants, sole proprietors. They often earn more than employees, but if they stop working, their income also stops. They have bought themselves a job rather than building a business. The third quadrant is B, business owner. True business owners own a system and people who work for them. They can step away for a month, a year, or 5 years, and the business keeps generating income. This is the quadrant where genuine wealth begins to become possible, because income is no longer tied directly to hours worked. The fourth quadrant is I, investor. Investors make money work for them. Their money generates more money without requiring their time or labor. This is the quadrant of true financial freedom. Kiyosaki says that most of the world's wealthiest people operate primarily from the B and I quadrants, and they often started in the E or S quadrant and deliberately moved. The move is not just financial, it is philosophical. It requires a different relationship with risk, with time, with failure, and with money itself. But understanding that the quadrant you're in determines your financial ceiling is one of the most motivating insights in the book. You are not stuck where you are. But moving requires conscious, deliberate effort and a fundamentally new mindset. Chapter 12, The Power of Paying Yourself First. Kiyosaki returns to the concept of paying yourself first in this chapter and goes deeper, because he considers it one of the cornerstones of the entire Rich Dad philosophy. He tells a story from his own life when he and his wife were making very little money and still committed to paying themselves first every single month. Critics thought it was reckless. They had bills to pay, they had obligations. But Kiyosaki says the pressure created by paying himself first before the bills was one of the most powerful financial motivators he ever experienced. When you don't have enough money to pay your bills because you paid yourself first, something interesting happens. You are forced to get creative. You look for extra sources of income. You find expenses you can cut. You hustle, you problem solve, you innovate. The financial pressure drives action in a way that comfort and financial security never could. This is the opposite of what most people do. Most people pay everyone else first and then have nothing left for themselves, which creates a different kind of pressure, the pressure of poverty with no assets to show for it. He distinguishes this approach from recklessness by making a key point. Paying yourself first means directing money into your asset column, not into spending. The money that goes to you first goes to your investment account, your retirement fund, your business capital. It is building something real and lasting. The bills still get paid. You just put pressure on yourself to find the means to pay them from a position of growing wealth rather than perpetual scarcity. The practical application is to set up an automatic transfer from your main account to your investment or savings account on the same day your paycheck arrives, before you have a chance to spend it. Start with whatever percentage you can manage. Even 5% or 10% is a start. Then commit to increasing it over time as your income grows. The most important thing is the habit of prioritizing your financial future before your present expenses. Do that consistently for years, and the compounding effect will astound you. Chapter 13. Financial Intelligence, the Real Currency of the Future. In one of the book's most forward-looking chapters, Kiyosaki argues that the most valuable asset any person can develop is not a portfolio of stocks or a collection of rental properties. It is the mind that can create and maintain those things. Financial intelligence is the combination of accounting knowledge, investing knowledge, market understanding, and legal awareness that allows a person to make consistently smart decisions with money over time. He uses an analogy that resonates deeply. Two people are given identical amounts of money. One has high financial intelligence, the other has low financial intelligence. Within 5 years, the person with high financial intelligence has turned that money into significant wealth. The person with low financial intelligence has nothing left, or worse, is in debt. The money did not make the difference. The intelligence behind the money did. This is why lottery winners so often end up broke within a few years. The money came without the intelligence to manage it. Kiyosaki identifies 4 areas of financial intelligence that Rich Dad helped him develop. First, accounting, the ability to read numbers and understand what they reveal about the health of a business or investment. Second, investing, understanding how money works and what strategies make it grow. Third, understanding markets, knowing the law of supply and demand and reading market cycles and trends. Fourth, law, understanding tax advantages, corporate structures, and legal protections available to investors and business owners. The action step here is to treat financial education as a lifelong, ongoing investment, not a one-time course. Read 1 financial book per month, study the companies you own stock in, take a local real estate investing class. Learn the basics of how to read a balance sheet. Each piece of knowledge you add compounds on the others and gradually builds a financial intelligence that makes you better at seeing opportunities, avoiding mistakes, and making decisions that the financially uneducated simply cannot make. Key lessons and insights. Now let's bring the entire book together into the 5 most powerful lessons, the insights that, if you truly internalize them, can permanently reshape your financial reality. Lesson 1. The rat race is real, and most people never escape it. Kiyosaki's concept of the rat race is one of the most honest and uncomfortable descriptions of modern financial life ever put into print. Offered days. The rat race is the cycle of working to earn, spending everything you earn, needing to earn more, and working harder to do it, year after year, decade after decade, while never actually getting ahead. It is the financial treadmill that keeps the majority of working people perpetually one crisis away from disaster. What makes the rat race so difficult to escape is that it is disguised as success. You get a raise and feel like you're moving forward, but if the raise is immediately absorbed by higher spending, higher mortgage, higher car payment, the treadmill just speeds up. The lifestyle grows with the income, and the gap between what you earn and what you keep remains exactly the same. This is what Rich Dad called lifestyle inflation, and it is one of the most financially devastating forces in the modern world. Escaping the rat race requires a decision. A conscious, deliberate choice to stop letting income growth translate automatically into spending growth and to redirect the difference into assets. It is not easy, but it is simple. The practical step is to make a rule. Every time your income increases, a fixed percentage of that increase goes directly to your asset column before it can be spent on lifestyle. Not all of it, but enough. Over time, the assets grow, the income from those assets grows, and eventually, the income from your assets covers your expenses. That is the moment you escape the rat race. That is financial freedom. Lesson 2. Assets vs. Liabilities. This distinction changes everything of all the ideas in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is the one that Kiyosaki himself says is the most important and the simplest. Assets put money in your pocket. Liabilities take money out. That's it. Everything else in personal finance flows from this single distinction. When you understand it truly and apply it consistently, your financial decisions change completely. The reason most people never build wealth is not that they don't earn enough. It is that they spend their entire earning years converting their income into liabilities they believe are assets. The fancy car they financed, the large house they are still paying off at 65, the expensive lifestyle funded by credit cards. Each of these things felt like a reward for hard work and felt like a sign of success. But each one was taking money out of their pocket month after month, year after year, compounding in exactly the wrong direction. The practical application is to make a habit of asking about every significant financial decision, is this going to put money into my pocket or take money out? If it takes money out, If it is a liability, ask yourself honestly whether you can afford it, whether you actually need it, and whether the same money directed toward an asset might do more for your future. You don't need to live without joy or comfort, but you do need to be honest about what things truly are, not what you wish they were. Lesson 3. The school system was not designed to teach you about money. One of the most important contextual lessons in this book is that the financial ignorance of the general public is not an accident. It is a structural feature of the education system. Schools prepare children to become good employees. They teach the skills needed to earn a salary, pay taxes, and participate in the economy as consumers. They do not teach children how to build wealth, how to invest, or how to think like a business owner. And that gap between what schools teach and what financial freedom requires is enormous. This is not a conspiracy. It is simply the historical purpose of formal education, to prepare a workforce, and for most of human history, that was enough. But in a world of increasing economic complexity and decreasing pension security, the gap between financial education and financial reality has become a genuine crisis. Millions of people retire with almost nothing because they spent 40 years doing exactly what they were taught was the right thing to do. Work hard, spend carefully, trust the system. The empowering realization is that financial education is entirely available to anyone willing to seek it. The internet, books, podcasts, seminars, mentors, the tools for learning everything Rich Dad taught Kiyosaki are more accessible today than ever before in history. The question is not whether the education exists. The question is whether you care enough about your financial future to pursue it with the same seriousness you gave your formal schooling. Treat financial education like the necessity it is and invest in it accordingly. Lesson 4. Your mind is your most powerful financial asset. Throughout the book, Kiyosaki returns again and again to a single foundational truth. What makes the rich different from everyone else is not primarily their money, their connections, or their luck. It is how they think. The wealthy have a different relationship with money at the level of mindset. And that mindset difference produces different decisions, which produce different outcomes, which produce different lives. Poor Dad believed that loving money was the root of all evil. Rich Dad believed that a lack of money was the root of all evil. These are not the same belief with different words. They are diametrically opposite worldviews that produce diametrically opposite financial behaviors. Poor Dad saw financial ambition as something slightly shameful, something that needed to be kept within respectable bounds. Rich Dad saw it as a driver of freedom, creativity, and impact. One mindset builds wealth. The other, despite every good intention, tends to keep people from it. The action step here is to audit your own beliefs about money, the ones you absorbed before you were old enough to question them. Do you believe that money is bad, that rich people are greedy, that wanting more is selfish? Do you believe that financial struggle is just the normal human condition? These beliefs, if left unexamined, will quietly sabotage every financial effort you make. Name them, challenge them, replace them with beliefs that are both financially realistic and personally motivating. Your beliefs are the foundation of your financial reality. Lesson 5. Financial freedom is built through assets, not through income. The final and most liberating lesson in this book is this: you will not earn your way to financial freedom. Not through promotions, not through raises, not through working longer hours. Income alone, no matter how large, will not make you financially free if it is constantly converted into liabilities. Financial freedom comes from one source and one source only: assets that generate income independent of your labor. This is the core difference between the two dads. Poor Dad worked harder and harder for more income, spending his career chasing a higher salary. Rich Dad worked to build assets that generated income while he slept. Both were honorable approaches to life. But only one of them eventually produced freedom. The freedom to choose how to spend your time, where to live, what work to pursue, and what legacy to leave. Income ends when you stop working. Asset income continues and grows. The most important thing you can do after watching this video is to start building your asset column today with whatever you have. It doesn't matter if it's $50 a month or $5,000. What matters is the direction. Every dollar that goes into your asset column is working toward the day when your assets generate enough income to cover your life. That day is the day you become financially free. Not rich necessarily, free. Free to choose. Free to live on your own terms. That is what Rich Dad was teaching, and it is available to anyone willing to learn and act. We have just walked through the full journey of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, from the two contrasting father figures who shaped Kiyosaki's understanding of money, through the 6 core lessons about financial literacy, assets, taxes, and the rich mindset, all the way to the practical steps you can take starting today to begin building genuine financial intelligence and real wealth. And here is the truth. At the heart of all of it, financial freedom is not about being born lucky. It is not about a perfect economy or a high salary or the right connections. It is about learning what the school system never taught you and having the courage to apply it. The most powerful thing about this book is not any single idea. It is the cumulative effect of seeing the world through Rich Dad's eyes. Once you understand the difference between assets and liabilities, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand how the rat race works, you can never look at your paycheck the same way again. Once you see that money can work for you instead of you always working for it, your relationship with your financial life changes permanently. That shift in perspective, invisible from the outside, transformative on the inside, is what millions of readers have experienced from this book, and now you have it too. So here is what I want you to do right now. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is the single most powerful idea from this video that you are going to apply to your financial life this week? Is it starting to build your asset column? Is it auditing your beliefs about money? Is it setting up an automatic payment to yourself first? Whatever it is, name it, write it down, make it real. And if this video gave you value, please give it a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown. Your Rich Dad education starts today. Go build something that works for you while you sleep.